This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
What's up, guys? It's Vito here for episode number 8 of Vito's Sitdown. And my guest on this episode of Vito's Sitdown is two-time state champion boys basketball head coach at River Rouge High School, Lamonte Stone, who led the Rouge Panthers to their 13th and 14th state titles in boys basketball in 1998 and 1999, and he returned to his alma mater before the start of the 2018-2019 campaign. This season, he led the Panthers to a 23-3 mark in a D2 state final appearance, which unfortunately for the Panthers ended up being a loss to Hudsonville Unity Christian 58-55. Yet a very successful first season back at Rouge for Stone. And with that being said, I had the chance to talk to Coach Stone about how hard of a decision it was for him to return to Rouge for a third stint as head man. We also talked about his 7 seniors and what they meant to Rouge basketball. We talked about sophomore legend Jeter, the contributions he made to the team this season off the bench, and how good of a player he can become moving forward. We also chatted about his variety of D1 college coaching stops as an assistant at Eastern Michigan, at Ohio State, and at Bowling Green. And then I picked his brain about the NCAA tournament, and we chatted about Michigan and Michigan State and who he would rather have in March in one game, Beeline or Izzo. All of that and more with Lamonte Stone in just a minute. But first, let me give some love to our sponsor, the sponsor of this very episode of Vito's Sitdown. And that is a longtime sponsor of the DSP network in the Detroit Sports Commission. Since 2001, the Detroit Sports Commission has applied its expert touch to marketing and to selling the Metro Detroit area as a marquee destination for regional, national, and international amateur sporting events. And through the Detroit Sports Commission's great help, these events have attracted thousands of visitors and pumped millions of dollars into our local economy. And it is why Detroit is now not only the place where champions are made, but also the place where championships are played. To find out more about the Detroit Sports Commission and all of the events they are bringing to our very region, once again, that is the Metro Detroit area, please follow the DSC on Twitter and on Instagram at DET Sports. And make sure to check out the Sports Commission's terrific website at DetroitSports.org. And without further ado now, here is my chat with Lamonte Stone. I'm here at River Rouge High School with Rouge head coach Lamonte Stone, a class of 1984 graduate of River Rouge High School. Coach, thanks for doing this with me, and how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing good, but people think I'm younger than that, Vito. You can't tell my age.
I gave away your age a little bit there, Coach. And you're back here at Rouge for a third stint as a varsity basketball head man.
Yeah.
Now, how tough of a decision was it for you to make that decision before this season about whether or not you would return to the sidelines at Rouge for a third stint?
On the surface, it may have been tough, but this is home. This is where my mom graduated from the school. My dad graduated from the school. My oldest son graduated from the school. Uncles and aunts. So this is home. And both times I took this job, I said I was done coaching high school basketball. The door is always open for collegiate because that's who I evolved into. But I thought I was done coaching high school basketball, but for some reason I can't say no when River Rouge calls.
So making it all the way back now to the state finals, to in your first year back as head man at the school on the 20th anniversary of that 99 state championship that you had won when you won back-to-back state titles in 98 and 99.
Yes.
And you almost captured the state championship this season. Yes. But overall-wise, Coach, what did this season mean to you, just getting to the state final?
You know what? It was, we'll start at the beginning. When I took the job, this was a group of kids that was hurt. It's almost like your mom and dad leaves you, and you're wondering, okay, what's my world, what's my life is going to be at this point. So to come in and great group of kids though, but they were just, they were hurt. So I had to come in and almost be a nurture, I had to nurture them. I had to be a mom, a dad, and all the above before I turned into coaching mode. So that was the start of things. And once we got going, the coach that left here was a good coach. So it wasn't about the basketball. They had a really good base. So I just had to come in and tweak a little things and put some things in that made me comfortable as a coach, and they received it, and we went on to have a really good year. I'm proud of the things that we did. Had some really good wins in the season, and our theme was to win state championship. This team these group of kids had been to the semis 2 years in a row. So I told them, hey, getting to the semis is great, but at River Rouge here is all about state championships. We hang state championship banners. We don't hang semis or runner-up banners in our gymnasium. So that was our theme this year, and they bought into it, and and we were there. We were I thought a minute away. We needed another 60 seconds, and I think things would have been different. But we ran into a great Unity Christian team, well coached, and a group of kids that I think are just winners. I was watching film on those guys, and nothing really stood out. Typical team, that probably the same type of team that we played in the quarterfinals in Haslett and the regional finals in Divine Child. So nothing really stuck out. But I heard the announcer say, in the fall, the same group of kids, some played soccer, some played football, but they won a state championship in soccer and football. And that scared the daylights out of me, because now all of a sudden it's a mentality that you're playing against and coaching against. It's not necessarily a basketball. It's an attitude that those kids had, and they displayed it on that court. And the thing is, they didn't win a state championship in golf or tennis or, swimming. Soccer and football are tough, hard-nosed sports. So once I heard that, I knew we were in for a long night.
And you had a senior-laden group with 7 seniors coming into this season. What did those seniors mean to River Rouge basketball? I mean,
they over a 3-year span, this team is and I may have numbers off 1 or 2, but I think they were 73 and 70, 73 wins and 7 losses over a 3-year span. So, and I told this group Saturday night that you guys have started the tradition of bringing River Rouge basketball back to the forefront in this state. And I tried to instill the tradition, from the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and of course the 90s. But this group of kids, they weren't even born at that time. So, I tried to each day, talk about tradition and instill it in them. But I told them on Saturday night, you guys are starting a new tradition, the 2000 version of River Rouge basketball, and it started with you guys. And I told them, when you guys get my age, and 20 years from now, you'll come back and you'll say, hey, I was part of this, and we'll win a state championship in the next few years.
And starting new tradition then, and you have a sophomore right now in Legend Jeter,
yes,
who's coming back now for 2 more years at Rouge, which I know is huge for you and your program coach. What kind of contributions did he make to the program only as a sophomore this season, too, and coming off the bench as well for you guys?
Yeah, I told everyone, and it's obvious, Legend will start on any other high school team in the state. So he sacrificed a lot this year for the seniors. We had 7 seniors, 5 of them started, and he would be the 6th man off the bench. And he was fine with that. His mom and dad were fine with that. He was just about, hey, coach, whatever we need to do to win. And I just think we need more kids and more parents like Legend and his parents, across the state and across the country, because I think, in today's society is, microwave. I want instant success. I want things right now. It's not necessarily about the team. It's about the individual. And our program is not based on that. I played for Lofton Green, who was, the most disciplined guy I've ever known, even to this point in my life. And there was always, 5 or 6 guys walking the halls of our school that we knew as players that were better than us. But he wouldn't put them on the team because he knew they weren't disciplined enough maybe to get to practice on time or to be at practice every day or to keep their academics up to par. So some programs may put those guys on the team and work with them and try to bring them along. Lofton Green wouldn't even, touch them. So we knew that. And that's one of the things that, I think helped him. And, I skirt that a little bit. In today's society, I try to keep, one or two guys that maybe he wouldn't have kept. But my thing is maybe if I keep them around the guys and keep them around the team and keep them in a structured situation, maybe they'll conform. But, the more you coach and the more you try to do those things, you go back to, so this is why Coach Green did this.
Back to Legend. How good of a player can he become moving forward, too?
I think Legend's probably one of the top sophomores in the state. I think he's probably the top big man in that sophomore class. I mean, this year he didn't show on the court in games a lot of his perimeter skills, but we see it all day in practice. I mean, he handles the ball. He's a very good passer to be 6'7", and he shoots the threes all day in practice. I think he only shot maybe 1 or 2 threes this year in a game, but in practice we see it all day long. So what'll happen with Legend is next year, most people that see him in games say, wow, his game is really, has really changed, because on the court they just see a post guy. But no, it'll just be the situation where, a lot of our perimeter guys were seniors, so he didn't have a chance to get on the perimeter. So next year he'll be on the perimeter, doing the things that we see in practice, he'll be able to do them in the games.
And you already brought up the legendary Lofton Green. Yeah. What was it like playing for him at Rouge? You did?
It was a blast. I mean, just the play for, at that time you're a teenager, you really don't realize the magnitude of the situation you're in, playing for a storied program and playing for a legendary coach. When we traveled, we saw it. People would come up to him as soon as we got off the bus and just want a few minutes of his time. And a quick story, and I didn't realize it till later on. Each year we would start off the season. He would take us to I think my junior and senior. We went to Petoskey on a Friday, and then we would play Traverse City St. Francis on Saturday. And he did that for a number of years, and that's how we would start the season off. So later on, I realized after talking to him as an adult, and once I got into coaching, I would quiz him on a number of things. So I would say, well, why the trip, to start the year off? And there was 2 reasons. The first reason, we were River Rouge students and kids, and from this community, we don't get to go up north and see places like Petoskey and Traverse City and the water and the gigantic houses, that's up there. So that was one thing, to horizon, to broaden our horizon, as far as kids. And then the second thing was, to win a state championship, you got to play Friday, Saturday night. So he would start the season off playing a Friday, Saturday night, probably just to see how we reacted, coming back from a tough game Friday and then got to win Saturday as well, or how we're going to react, in the hotels and at that time we were staying with the other kids, but just that whole weekend, and just little things like that I would pick up.
So a good learning experience, good bonding experience. Yeah. And speaking of what, you have learned over the years from playing for Coach Green, how much has he shaped the coach that you have become today, head coach, too specifically?
Yeah. I mean, this is the base and the foundation of who I am is Lofton Green. Not only did I play for him in high school, people don't realize when he retired here, I think he sat 1 year out and then went over to U of M in Dearborn and became the head coach of U of M Dearborn. I guess he just, you retire, you sit home for a minute, and you realize, maybe this is what I was built to do. So I went to Toledo as a freshman, as a track and basketball athlete, red-shirted basketball, wind up running track. And I pulled my hamstring mid-year in track. I'll give you a quick story about the track. So I was a middle distance runner. So we would go out 2.5 and come back. So our warm-up was 5 miles, and then we would come in and do our workout. probably midway through, and particularly once I pulled my hamstring, I think I realized I was a basketball player, not track athlete.
Then you learned the hard way kind of that way, huh? That you were just a basketball player.
So I called Coach Green once I realized he's at U of M Dearborn, going to U of M Dearborn, and I said, hey, I'm coming back to play for you, and I'm coming back to U of M Dearborn. And immediately he said, no, you're not. You're staying at Toledo. I'm going to call, I just drew a blank on Coach Nichols, who was the coach at Toledo at that time. So I'm going to call Coach Nichols, and you're going to stay at Toledo. And if you don't want to run track, then you just play basketball the rest of your career there. So I said, okay, Coach. Coach talks and he tells me what I'm doing. That's what I'm going to do. About a week later, I called him back again. I said, no, Coach, I won't come back and won't play for you. And I think he saw that I was adamant, and, that's really what I wanted to do. It heard in my voice. So he said, okay, well, we'll set up a visit for you to come to the campus, show you around. We'll talk to admissions people. And I was a decent high school student academically. That freshman year, just like most freshmen, I struggled a little bit, but, I was okay academically. So we go to the admissions office, me, him, and my mom. We're sitting with the academic admissions coordinator, and she looks at my high school transcript and my Toledo transcript to that point. And she says, well, I don't think you're the type of student, maybe not, and I may be paraphrasing it, but in other words, she wasn't letting me in the university. She was basically saying, well, maybe do another year at Toledo, and we'll see, if you really want to come back, we'll see how it works out academically. And Coach Green almost cut her off and say, no, I'll vouch for him academically. He'll be fine here. We need to admit him as I've been knowing him my whole life. We need to admit him. He'll be an asset to this university. And that was it. And she admitted me to the university just based on Coach Green. And I was like, wow, this man carries a lot of weight.
His recommendation really paid huge dividends in your life then.
Yep. And I'm sitting at the office and I'm hearing this and I'm picking all this up. So once I started coaching, we're about championships and we want to win and we want to win big time. But I've always remembered that conversation. So more to me, we want to win, but my thing is I got to get these kids in school. So, I have 7 seniors, and every senior is going to school. And every senior but one will probably go to school for free. The one, Jason Norton, may have to pay a little bit. He's going to junior college. But all the other 6 kids won't have to pay a dime.
And that's the key, right? Getting these kids off to college for free. Yep. Free education. Yep. Now, you've had a variety of D1 college coaching stops as an assistant at Eastern, at Ohio State, at Bowling Green. Yes. What have you learned from each of those coaching stops?
It's funny because each of them have been different. We'll talk about them one at a time. First, Eastern Michigan. I left here in 2000 to go to Eastern Michigan, and I worked for a guy named Jim Boone, who was a very good coach. He came from Robert Morris to Eastern Michigan, but before Robert Morris, he was a Division II coach and won a ton at the Division II level. X and O, great guy. He was a Bobby Knight guy, kind of Bobby Knight philosophy, but a great X and O guy. So what I learned there was just the study of the game and just how much film work went into the game. As fans and supporters, you see, particularly high school, you see Tuesday night, you see Friday night. You don't understand the amount of work that goes on into being ready to play Tuesday or being ready to play Friday. And I really learned that working for Coach Boone. And then when I go to Ohio State, it's just, that's a whole nother level. You got to remember, I was just 2 years removed as a high school coach before I went to Ohio State. And just the fact that the recruiting aspect just huge. And I think I understood at that point, going in, you think about, okay, you got to be the great coach. You got to do this. You got to learn the X's and O's. You got to be really study the craft. But at Ohio State, I learned that, a lot of times it's not about the X's and O's. We call it the Jimmies and the Joes.
And what does that mean exactly?
You better have some players.
Okay. Bring in the top recruits. Unless you have the players, you're not going to win, right? No matter how great you are with the X's and O's.
I learned at Ohio State, you could be the best coach in the world. But if you don't have the players, no one will ever realize that you're a good coach. So Ohio State is about, learning how to recruit, learning how to go out and get the best players that you could possibly get at that level to help you, with the X's and O's and help, your game plan and to help you facilitate what you want to do out there on that court. Because it's a lot easier doing that with the best players.
Yeah, they help make you look good, right, as a coach, too, and execute those X's and O's that you want to implement.
Yeah, and I mean, it was just, it's funny because I'll give you a quick story. We were playing Indiana on national TV, it was weeknight. So, at that level, you fly into Bloomington the day before, shoot around, get ready, you play that game that night, and you're flying back out of Bloomington on a charter, probably an hour after the game's over, because you got a escort, police escort to the the local airport, and then say the Bloomington trip maybe 30 minutes from Columbus. So you back home probably 2 hours after you play that game. You back home. So one of my buddies called, and I pick up the phone because I'm at home. He said, "Man, I thought I was gonna leave you a message just telling you, you guys played well. I watched you guys. What are you doing home?" No, he said, "What are you doing answering the phone?" He said, "I thought you'd be in the air." I said, "Man, the way we travel, you get an escort to the airport. You're on a chartered flight. You land back in Columbus. You're 30 minutes. I mean, it's just, you're almost, at that level, you're almost an NBA coach." So we get let go at Ohio State, and I wind up going to Bowling Green. And you know what? If I tell everyone, if I had to retire and someone say, "Hey, where you want to go live for the rest of your life?" It would be Bowling Green, Ohio. I mean, it was a small college town, and just the people of that community, they treated us so nice. And, my kids were of age. So, and just my kids grew up in a town that just, they had no cares. It's a town where you don't lock your doors at night. I remember a quick story again. My son was driving. He got his car at 16, 17 years old. So we needed to take the car to the shop. It was getting an oil change or something minor. So I called him. He doesn't answer the phone. So I go to the school and say, "Hey, I need the keys so we could take the car to the shop." He said, "Dad, well, the keys are in the car." So I go outside in the parking lot, and the keys are sitting in the front seat of the car unlocked. And that was just Bowling Green, Ohio. You had...
Or somebody could have taken the vehicle, but nobody did. You could trust your neighbors, right, in Bowling Green.
Man, yeah. He would leave his phone at practice in the middle of the floor or on the bench, and he'll realize once he's home, I gotta run back to school and get my phone. It's sitting right there. It's just a town that I say is not it's almost make believe. It's something that you would see on TV. But the basketball there, I mean, just great. Just the people, the support. We built a new arena when we were there, and give you a quick story. One of our big supporters was a grandchild of the founder of the Hershey's company, the chocolate candy, and he would travel with us and just be around, and you would not know that that was his lineage unless someone told you, because he was just another everyday person, and just that was Bowling Green. And I tell everyone, if you have particularly a daughter, if you have a daughter and you're looking for a school to send your daughter to, I recommend Bowling Green highly. You can go there. First of all, there's like I said, there's no crime. So as a collegiate student, you there and you could study. You could go downtown to the local bars and restaurants and have fun as a collegiate student without just the cares of just looking over your shoulder and just worrying about the ill wills of life. So that's Eastern Michigan, Ohio State, and Bowling Green on a short note.
So your sons and daughters can be safe in Bowling Green. Has that small town feel. Yep. Does it make it similar then to River Rouge and the small, close-knit community at Rouge?
And it's probably why I like Bowling Green, because I was about to say,
it seems similar
it takes
to
me
over
back
here.
to my upbringing and being raised here in River Rouge. And at that point in my life, being in a big city, you have fun growing up in a big city. But that point in my life, it was probably I was at a stage where, okay, let's get back to the roots of who I am and where I come from. And that's probably why I enjoyed Bowling Green so much. You're right.
Let's transition into this now, the NCAA tournament, and make you an analyst here about the tourney. Now, Michigan and Michigan State both receiving number 2 seeds in their respective regions. MSU in the East, Michigan in the West. How unfair was that, you think, for MSU perhaps not to be a 1, and then for Michigan just to be a number 2 seed, just like MSU, when MSU beat Michigan not once, not twice, but 3 times in the same season, including in the Big Ten Conference Tournament Championship game, Coach?
Yeah, I look at things the other way. I look at, everyone thinks Duke is the team to beat, and Duke is this quote-unquote, unbeatable team. I look at it the other way. Who can we put in Duke's way that could beat Duke? Hey, Michigan State. That's a team that most of the time makes a deep run in the tournament. Their tournament experience, great tournament coach. Who can we put in their region that's good enough and a solid enough program that could possibly beat Duke or at least challenge them? Mm-hmm. Michigan State. So that's always been my philosophy. I'm a coach that, hey, bring it to me, give me the challenge. And I think Izzo's the same way. He may not say it publicly. He'll say all the right things and he'll spin it that he's not getting treated right. The program's not should be get treated better than that. But deep down inside, he's telling, and in that locker room, he's telling those guys, this is what we want. We want Duke. Duke's supposed to be the it. Let's go through Duke to win this championship. I got Michigan State in the Final Four.
Wow. So getting past Duke then in the Elite Eight. Because I think Duke gets MSU in the Elite Eight.
Yep.
But you want to beat the best. You said, you want to beat Zion and RJ Barrett and Coach K, which Izzo, as you probably know yourself, has not really beaten Coach K head-to-head many times. I think once. Once, and that's it over the course of almost 10 or 10-plus times now, head-to-head with Coach K. So MSU is due to beat Duke. It's just, is anybody going to do so? And I guess MSU, the way they're playing, winning the regular season championship and the conference tournament championship, and having Cassius Winston, the Big Ten Player of the Year, who has looked superb and down the stretch and crunch time against Michigan, too, in that conference championship game, Coach.
Yeah, I don't see anyone in that region other than Michigan State being able to play with Duke right now.
I think Duke has it easy, outside of State, perhaps. Yeah. And then I think for State, Coach, and you can tell me if I'm right or wrong, a lot rides on the shoulders of Cassius Winston.
It does.
And for me, it's who else is going to step up, and who do you see stepping up outside of Cassius?
But you know what? The thing and this is why I like Michigan State in a tournament such as this, because they play, even though Cassius is the focal point of that team, they play inside out. And they're going to get the ball down low to the post guys. And in this tournament, if you're getting the ball down to the post guys, now as opposing coach, I got to adjust. If I'm going to play you one-on-one and maybe my guys are getting in foul trouble because your emphasis is in the post and I got a guard, or do I got double? And now, Michigan State is a pretty good perimeter shooting team. Mm-hmm. So now, the perimeter guys are getting open shots. So I think in a tournament of this nature, that's why Michigan State is scary, and particularly against a team like Duke, because they could go on the inside and make those guys defend around the basket. And I don't think that's what Duke wants to do.
So people were complaining about State getting that draw in that region with Duke as the 1 seed in that same region. I think, though, Michigan has a tougher slate of action to go up against to reach even the Sweet 16, which I don't see happening. I see them losing in the second round to Florida or to Nevada. And honestly, I have Nevada right now in my bracket beating Michigan before they can even reach the Sweet 16.
I agree with you. That's a tough second round game. And if for some reason they get by that second round game, you got Buffalo or Texas Tech sitting in the third round. So I totally agree with you. They got a tough road, and in that region, I'm gonna surprise you. I'm gonna go with Nate Oates and the Buffalo Bulls.
Okay, who's been a great MAC team all year long.
Yeah. And usually you gotta, there's a Cinderella story. in the state up tournament. So when you're picking out your brackets, you got, okay, who's the Cinderella team this year? And you look at a guy like Nate Oates as a coach who's won at every level. You know, before he got to Buffalo, he was a high school coach here in Romulus. Won 2 state championships, I think, with Matthews and the guards he had there. And then you go to Buffalo, and you know, he works for Danny Hurley, and Danny Hurley takes Arizona State, and they give Nate the job, and he just continues the success that Hurley has. And last year, you know, got to the tournament and then played well, and just continued it this year. So I think this year is the Cinderella story.
Is Buffalo this year for you? I like
Yeah.
Buffalo too, though. Actually, as a 6 seed, Nevada as a 7, 2 really good teams right there in that same region too.
You know
They're
what I would
6s
like
and
to
7s.
see? I would like to see Buffalo and Michigan play each other in that in the Sweet 16.
Okay.
I think that would be interesting. You know, Nate with his Michigan
Ties,
roots
yeah.
and ties,
That'd be cool.
and Michigan. I mean, I think that would be a good story. And then at that point, I don't know who I root for. I have to just root for a great game.
So what does Michigan have to do to make a run?
I mean, I think if they could get by Nevada or Florida in that second round game, and you know, build some momentum. Because they're tournament tested too. The run that they had last year, getting to the championship game. So, you know, and a lot of it is about experience and being tournament tested. So if they could get by that second round game, and whether it be Buffalo or Texas Tech, and then at that point it's just, you know, just buckling in and playing tough, hard-nosed basketball, and sometimes being a little lucky, getting a bounce here or there. I think if they could get by that, then, you know, maybe Syracuse or Florida State in the Elite Eight. You know, I think that's a good matchup for those guys. I think their tougher games are going to be early. And
Okay.
if they could get past those tougher games, once they get to Elite Eight, I think they're a winnable team, and then they could get to the Final Four.
So how about FSU, though, making a run? Red hot in the ACC, looked really good in the ACC tournament. And really, you know what? For all the great ACC powers, basketball-wise, nobody really was talking about Florida State all season long, and really a great squad to watch out for, too.
Yeah, I think Leonard Hamilton is one of the coaches in college basketball that don't get a lot of credit for the things he do on the court. I mean, every year, I mean, he has a really good program at Florida State, and you know, they're a team that, you know, you got to reckon with in the ACC, and every so often they'll make a tournament run. And I have those guys in my Elite Eight, you know, playing either at Michigan or Buffalo. And at that point, again, you know, it's just a matter of a lucky bounce or just, you know, maybe a call here and there that gets you to the Final Four.
And you have 2 brackets filled out there.
Yeah.
How many brackets do you typically fill out?
I fill out 2. I fill out a bracket that makes sense. And then I fill out a bracket that, you know, I put some upsets in there. Because one of my brackets, I have Cincinnati getting to the Final Four.
Okay.
So for Cincinnati to get to the Final Four, you know, they got to beat Purdue, you know, in the Sweet 16, and beat a good Kansas State or Virginia team in the Elite Eight. So that's my upset bracket, and I have Buffalo in that as well. So on that bracket, I got Michigan State, Buffalo, Cincinnati, and Kentucky.
So you're all about Nate Oates and Buffalo.
Yeah.
But who's your other dark horse outside of Buffalo making a run? Who's that one team that's unheralded that can make a run?
You know what? A team like, and I got 2, and I'll give you the reason for both. Houston,
Okay.
Coach Sampson.
Came close against Michigan last year, too.
If they beat Michigan, everyone's talking about Coach Sampson and his run. But I mean, I think that he's an experienced coach. The guy's been there last year. I think, you know, he has to get by Kentucky in the Sweet 16. But that could be a dark horse. And the other one is New Mexico State. Coach Jans is another guy that people don't talk about, but he's a heck of a coach. And New Mexico State, you know, they're not in the region of ours, so we don't hear a lot about New Mexico State, but they're a really good basketball team. And they'll see North Carolina in the Sweet 16. But if they beat North Carolina, in my mind, that won't be upset because they're a really good team. But people just don't realize the quality of a team that they are. So I'll say North Carolina and Houston. The problem is they're both in the same region, and you know, they'll see each other in Elite Eight. But you know, besides Buffalo, one of those 2 teams could be a Cinderella story as well.
And if you can beat UNC, you can almost beat anybody.
Yeah.
I say UNC and Duke, the two blue bloods. Really in basketball, like tradition-wise, you got Kentucky there too. But this season specifically, with what UNC has done to Duke, and remember, Duke in the ACC tournament barely beat UNC with Zion Williamson back.
Yep.
So remember that, and that's what I think I have right now in my bracket, UNC against Duke, the two blue bloods in the championship game. And what could be better than that? Really nothing. Two ACC powers, rich in tradition, two great headmen, Roy Williams at UNC, Coach K at Duke. And I think UNC actually gets it done against Duke. Now, for you, though, your Final Four, who do you have?
Okay. In my bracket that I think is going to be the ultimate, the way things turn out, Michigan and Michigan State, Final Four, on the other side with Virginia and Kentucky. Last year when I was out of coaching, I did a lot of traveling. I did a lot of things that I hadn't done, probably in 30 years before I started coaching. One of the things, I went to the Big Ten tournament as a fan and not as a coach. So I got to see the run that Michigan and Michigan State both made to get to the championship game last year. They did the same thing this year. I mean, that was an exciting game, and I usually go to the Michigan State games if I can. But so that was a really exciting game, and I want to see it again. This time I want to see it on the national stage for an opportunity to play for the championship. I think that would be great for our state.
It would be. It would be terrific. Two great programs, two great head coaches, two great seasons too. But let me ask you this. The Big Ten kind of being watered down, how much does that hurt the reputation of Michigan State and Michigan this season with the great seasons that they respectively had?
The Big Ten is watered down this year, but those programs over the last, Michigan State over the last, decade since Izzo was there, every year, they're expected to make a championship run. So in their case, I don't think it's an issue about the league and even what they do in the league. And the same thing with Michigan, since Beeline has been there, I mean, they've been a staple of making championship runs. So at this point, no one's even, the league records I've had forgotten about.
Yeah, erase those, right?
No one's even talking about what happened in the league. Now it's a new season, and I want to see Michigan and Michigan State in the Final Four.
So as a fellow coach now, who are you taking in a must-win game between Izzo and Beeline?
Wow, that's a great question.
Because Beeline has kind of become, in my opinion, Mr. March. Because Izzo was that for many, many years, but some early exits last year against Syracuse in a game they should have won if they could have just scored the basketball a little bit.
This year, in the way things have played out in basketball and I think all sports, it's about matchups. And I think this particular team at Michigan State matches up well with Michigan, and that's probably why Michigan State has won 3 times this season so far. I just think they match up well, and a lot of it is the power game that they display, going down low and playing around that basket.
So I'll leave you with this: who do you have winning it all?
One of my brackets I have Michigan State, and the other one I have Kentucky.
So some hometown love with State.
Yeah.
Now, who do you think those more likely out of those two? With those two brackets, I know you have a different champion in each, but if you had to put money on it, who would you pick of those two to win it all?
I'll go Kentucky. And
Okay.
I'm gonna tell you the thing and I picked Michigan State to go a long way to Michigan. But the thing that scares me as a coach about Michigan State, playing on a Thursday. You had an emotional victory on Championship Sunday. You come home Monday, has to be a day off. You practice on Tuesday, so you're either leaving after practice Tuesday or you're leaving Wednesday morning to get to your site, and then you got to play Thursday. That scares the daylights out of me. So as a coach, I'm concerned about that because I understand that what goes into that and getting your guys some rest. While you also got to prepare for an opponent. And it probably won't have an effect on Thursday, but the Saturday game is when that'll show up, when the fatigue factor and the travel and that's when it'll show up. And then if you look at their bracket, that could possibly be Louisville, Louisville, Minnesota. So you're talking about Louisville on a Saturday where you may be a little fatigued and got to play your best game. That could be a tough game.
And then Minnesota already knows State from playing State during the season.
Yeah.
How much does that matter, you think, as well, when the team that lost in the regular season knows that opponent from playing it in the regular season? How much of an edge is that for the team that lost previously?
It matters. It matters. But I think a Michigan State, Minnesota matchup, I just think Michigan State is just, the superior team. And when one game that really matters and you lose, you go home, you win, you continue to play. I think Michigan State, understands that, and I think they win that game. The Louisville, if it's Louisville, that would be the one that concerned me. Just with all the things that we talked about at play there.
And then Louisville, Minnesota. So you have Rick Pitino's former school playing his son's school at Minnesota. Do you think that was done on purpose by the NCAA?
Yeah. There's always a few games that are intriguing, for the fans and everyone who's, watching those games. And I love it. I love it. I love the fact that, the commentators could talk about, the aspect of that and, will Rick Pitino be there? I just think it's great for college basketball.
Coach, with that being said, I'll let you go. Enjoy the offseason and enjoy the big dance.
Thank you. I really appreciate, everything that you do and what you do for the community and the spotlight that you put on high school basketball in our community. I think it's great. I think we need more guys like you.
Well, thank you so much. Have a great day, and we'll talk again soon.
Thank you.